So now we will jump to the last 2 decades, and in this presentation, in this short presentation, I will briefly review the global mean sea level rise evolution since the beginning of the 90s, and briefly discuss the cause. As you all know, since 2 decades, we now measure sea level using satellites. We have a lot of satellites for that purpose, the series of TOPEC, JSON-1, JSON-2, but also Andisat, and recently we also have the SARAL Altica satellite, and hopefully other satellites in the near future. And here is a well-known curve that shows the global mean sea level evolution measured by these altimeter satellites in 1993, by the way, up to now. The recent update was last Friday. And what you can see is that there is a clear increase with a very steady rate of rise since several years of 3.2 millimeters per year, with some temporary anomalies, negative anomalies related to La Nina events, and positive anomalies related to El Nino. So for these last 2 decades, total elevation amounts about a little more than 6 centimeters. You also know that there are 2 main causes for this global mean sea level rise on time scale of a few years to 2 decades. The first one is the ocean thermal expansion due to ocean warming, and ocean mass change due to a number of phenomena, glaciers melting, ice sheet mass loss, exchange of water or variation of water storage on land, and also a small, as you will see, a small contribution from atmospheric water vapor. So now we have at our disposal a number of observing systems to quantify all this contribution. For thermal expansion, for the last few decades, we have temperature measurement from ships and also from moorings, etc. But since about a decade, since around 2003, we have data from the Argo system with global coverage. Here you can see the global coverage of the Argo floats that provide temperature and salinity measurement down to about 2,000 meters. To estimate ocean mass change, we have also different observing systems, mostly space observing system, space gravimetry from the GRACE mission since 2002. To estimate the mass balance of the ice sheet, we can use also laser and radar altimetry that estimate change in elevation of the ice sheet. INSAR to measure ice discharge into the ocean around the coastline of the ice sheets, and satellite imagery can be used through a digital elevation model to estimate the change in mass of glaciers. Just to show a number of examples, here is a curve showing the evolution of the global mean ocean thermal expansion for the upper 700 meters of the ocean. So in that case, mostly based on ship measurements. And you can see the increase between 1970 to the early 2000, and then a pause in the evolution of global mean thermal expansion. I will come back to this pause at the end of this presentation. An example about the use of satellite imagery to measure retreat and thinning of mountain glaciers. Here, this is the example for the Columbia Glacier in Alaska. And you can see the change in thickness of about 300 meters and the retreat of 15 kilometers between 1980 and 2011. So we also the total glacier mass balance is still mostly due to in situ measurement increasing use is made of satellite data, not only satellite imagery, but also space gravimetry data from GRACE. And here is an example of the change in mass of the Greenland ice sheet based on space gravimetry from GRACE. And the blue, violet, and dark color represent the decrease in mass in the coastal region of Greenland since 2003. So it started in the southeastern part of Greenland and propagated along the western coast of Greenland. So we can, same is observed in East Antarctica. And here you can see a recent update from a publication in Science that appeared a few months ago, at the end of 2012, which provided an estimate of the ice sheet mass loss by combining the different space techniques, that is altimetry, space gravimetry, and INSAR. And here you have the evolution of the ice mass of Antarctica, here, Greenland, and the sum of the two ice sheets expressed in gigaton. So you can see a clear decreasing trend during the last 2 decades, especially during the last decade. So all this observation can be used to estimate the contribution, the individual contribution to the global mean sea level rise of the last 2 decades. And here is a summary for this period. You have thermal expansion in red here, contributing by about 30%, and ocean mass change, ocean mass increase, contributing by about 55%, about equally shared by glaciers mass loss and ice sheet mass loss. But for this period, there is still an unknown contribution, a not explained contribution of about 15%, which is due to lack of data, especially during the first decade, 1993 to 2003. Since 2003, we have now the Argo and GRACE observing system, which allow better estimation of the sea level budget. Argo, as I said before, the Argo system provides salinity and temperature measurement down to 1,500 to 2,000 meters with global coverage, which was not the case before, with ship measurements. And GRACE, in particular GRACE, since 2002, can be used to directly measure the change in ocean mass. If you average the GRACE data over the ocean, you have an estimate of the ocean mass change. And GRACE can also be used to estimate the individual contribution, glaciers, ice sheets, and land waters. So just to show you an example, here you have the ocean mass change from GRACE over the ocean. So as you averaging the GRACE data over the ocean, this is the green bar here, which represents the contribution of the ocean mass change to the global mean sea level over 2000, which is this period 2005-2011. The start in 2005 comes from the fact that Argo data before 2005 do not cover enough the ocean and are not yet very reliable. But here we talk about the ocean mass. So we have the observation of the ocean mass increase over this period. And here the individual contribution, Antarctica, Greenland, and land water, based on GRACE and other observations. And you can see here a small contribution from the water vapor. In a warming climate, we expect that there will be more water vapor in the atmosphere, and this can now be estimated using either atmospheric reanalysis or global surface pressure data. And you can see that the contribution to sea level is small, but it is negative as we expect, because this means that during these recent years, the water vapor inside the atmosphere has increased. So if we sum up all these individual contributions, we come up with a yellow bar here, which is in very good agreement with the direct observation of the increase in ocean mass. So this is for the ocean mass, and now we can also compute the sea level budget. That is, compare the rate of sea level rise observed by altimeter satellite. This is the orange bar here, millimeter per year, and the individual contribution. So for the ocean mass, it is exactly the same as the previous slide, with the contribution of Antarctica, Greenland, land water pulse glaciers, and water vapor. And here we have an estimate of the thermal expansion contribution. The red bar is for the upper 700 meters of the ocean. The green bar is for the contribution from 700 to 1500 meters. And this is all we can directly estimate using observations. Now we can use the sea level budget approach to deduce unknown contribution, in particular the deep ocean contribution, which is mostly unknown so far. There are here and there a few measurements of the deep ocean temperature, but not enough to really estimate the deep ocean contribution to sea level rise, that is deep ocean warming. And by this sea level approach, we can estimate it by the difference between the observed sea level rise and the sum of all other contributions. And we come up with a value which is on the order of 0.3, for this period, 0.53 millimeter per year, which is about 25% to the sea level rise. So if correct, this result is interesting. I explain why, and this is my last slide. As I said, there is no direct measurement, almost no direct measurement of deep ocean temperature, but the ocean heat content or ocean thermal expansion can be estimated using oceanic reanalysis, that is a combination of numerical ocean models and observations assimilated in the models. And here is a result which has been published very recently, a few weeks ago, from a colleague from the UCMWF in UK. And it shows an estimate of the ocean heat content for different ocean depth range. So this curve, the gray curve here, is for the upper 300 meters of the ocean. The blue curve is for the upper 700 meters. And so what you can see is that in the recent year, you have this pause in ocean warming, exactly as we observe for the global mean surface temperature. But if you look at the total depth range, you can see a continuing increase of the ocean heat content, which suggests that the deep ocean has been warming in the recent years. So this is interesting. Why? We from observation at the top of the atmosphere, there is a suggestion that the radiative imbalance is still increasing on the order of 0.5 to 1 to about 1 watt per square meter. This is based on studies, in particular by Kevin Trenbert in the US. But as we have said, there is a pause of the global mean surface warming since a few years, since about a decade. So this has led to the concept of missing energy in the climate system, or to the question, where does the energy go? According to this result, it seems that the energy is has gone into the deep ocean. And if we estimate the increase of the deep ocean heat content and express this in terms of equivalent sea level rise, for example, about 10 to the 22 joule per year of increase of ocean heat content correspond to about 1 millimeter per year sea level rise. And we can compute the contribution of the deep ocean here on the order of 0.7. So this corresponds to 0.6 millimeter per year sea level rise. And this is exactly what was found in the previous slide from the sea level budget approach. So this was just to show you the interest of continuing these global mean sea level studies and estimating the contribution. It's important to estimate unknown contribution. This was an example. And it's also evidently very important to validate the climate models that are used for forecasting or projecting the future, as we will see in the coming in the presentation today, in particular today. So I stop here just to recall you that the remaining of this workshop was mostly devoted to discuss the regional variability that superimpose to the global mean sea level. And here you can see but I'm sure you will see them again, the special trend patterns in sea level observed by satellite altimetry over the last 2 decades. So I stop here, and we will move now to the, I stop here, to the first presentation of the first session.